Folks, this is the showdown of the GOATs. We have the brand new Prius, and as you can see, it's already performing like the GOAT that it is. 60.7 miles per gallon on the highway, doing approximately 70 to 75 miles per hour. The other car in this comparison is a standard range Tesla Model 3. Now, a standard range Tesla Model 3 currently costs $39,990. This specific Prius costs $37,500. They're in the same weight class as far as I'm concerned, and they're their GOATs in their own perspective, because the Prius, the people that say, oh, it should have been electric. No, it shouldn't have. The reason it shouldn't have is because Toyota isn't good at making electric vehicles. They're very good at making hybrids, and you can't kill off the Prius being the greatest hybrid of all time. Over 5 million of these have been sold, and this new one is incredible. It has cooled seats, heated seats. It even has heated seats in the rear. And it's interesting, the build quality, one of the things about Tesla always is the build quality. Cabin noise is kind of bad in here. There's a lot of noise. The Prius also now has 19-inch wheels, or at least this specific model does, and the tires are extremely thin. We have Apple CarPlay going here, so that all looks great. Again, 58.9 miles per gallon currently. We're having a nice time, so this will be a good comparison to show you round trip. We're going to do about a 255-mile journey in the Model 3 and in the Prius. We're going to do a cost comparison to show what exactly does it cost to cover this amount of distance. I'm almost certain the Tesla is going to have to charge, and hopefully give you a better idea if you're looking to go fully electric or just take a step that direction by going with the greatest hybrid of all time. Which one should you go with? I hope you enjoy this video. Now, one thing I actually really like, and I think this is a setting you can change, is when I come onto the brakes here to come to a stop, these will switch to a camera to kind of show what your surroundings are. You can see what's to the right of me, and then you get this overhead camera, which is really useful, especially when you're parking, so you don't curb these beautiful 19-inch wheels. So there's little features like that. Now, one feature that is weird to me that I can't get used to is this display here. It's in a terrible position because I have to pull the steering wheel all the way down just to get visibility of this display. So that's kind of an awkward position. It is nice. It gives me direction from Apple CarPlay to show where I'm going next, but it's just positioned awkwardly. It does also have this blue ambient lighting strip. I haven't played with it yet, but I'm sure you can change the color of it and all of that. It does have a sunroof. It does have basically a panoramic roof that you can see here. It's manual to open and close it as far as the covers go. So the interior of this is very roomy and airy. Reminds me of the previous one. When I got in, the first time I ever rode in a Prius, I was like, wow, it's actually very spacious and useful in here. And this feels the same way. So now that we've driven a decent amount, we've actually gone up a decent elevation. The miles per gallon on the Prius is 39.4 miles per gallon. The other thing about the Prius that's not great, that's kind of annoying, is when you're going uphill, it's that hum of the CVT transmission. It's like, listen. It's like a cat that's sick at 3 in the morning. And it's like, ugh. And you think about what this car costs, it's not cheap, in my opinion. I mean, I understand that the average new car price is about $47,000. This is about under that by about $10,000. So, you know, I get it, but I just thought that this thing would be better, I don't know, insulated. It's kind of rough. You know, as a commuter car, the seats are very comfortable. The seats are comfortable, they give you space, they're heated and cooled, and I like that. It's very easy to see out of the car, but I feel like there's cars that are cheaper than this that are wider on the cabin, and part of that is the 19-inch wheels. If you got smaller diameter wheels, you know, it would ride better. I'm kind of shocked. I expected this to be like comfortable and not luxurious, that's not what I'm saying, but just like comfortable and quiet, and it's really not. So I guess things that you could eliminate would be the sunroof and the bigger wheels to help with the comfort. But it sounds like I'm talking about a Tesla again. It's like, well, the bigger wheels and the sound in the cabin, whereas the Model 3 going up a hill has all that torque, it's silent, and just rockets up mountains. It's very pleasurable to drive. This is not. Now, one interesting thing about the Prius is it does have different drive modes. So we have Eco, Normal, and Sport, and being on this curvy road, We're throwing her in sport, and we're gonna see how the Prius does. Now, why does a Prius have sport mode? Great question, I have no idea. But it does make a slight difference in throttle response. There's just less lag. I think it does actually tighten up the steering. Steering feels tighter, nothing happens with the suspension. So I think it's steering and it's throttle response. We still have the laggy CVT transmission, but this car isn't, built for performance, but it has sport mode and we're on a curvy road. So we're gonna test it out and see how it is. Yeah, baby, set in there. Set into that turn. The other thing I like is the steering wheel on the Prius. Very soft, softer than I would have expected it. I mean, this thing's all over the place. In Wiz Khalifa's 2011 album, Rolling Papers, he said, "Ain't back 'cause I never left." And that stands true for the 2023 Prius as well. You know why? Because this is the GOAT of hybrid vehicles. It's not a plug-in charge hybrid. This thing came onto the map in a time when hybrids was a foreign subject. Some people reported these as UFOs on the road. The other GOAT here is the Tesla Model 3. This is the car that was able to reach the masses and make adopting an electric vehicle something you could do as having it as your only car. Because of Tesla's proprietary and expansive charging network, you were able to drive this and have something that updates over the air. It's very fast, it's very functional, it has a frunk, it has a sub-trunk, and the sound system is great. There's glass roof everywhere. So these are two GOATs. And now the Prius is actually a good looking car. It has 19-inch wheels on it. It has 197 horsepower. To put that in perspective, the current Civic Si only has 205 horsepower. Additionally, in my personal testing that I did with the Civic Si, I don't think I was able to break 8 seconds in 0 to 60. This monster right here will do it in 7.2 seconds. So if you own a new Civic Si and this pulls up to you next to the light, act like you don't see it and just drive along because you will be very disappointed. Moving on to the interior of the car. Also, this video is brought to you by INTOTHEAM. This is their new athletic line of t-shirts. I normally wear their basic t-shirts and those are very comfortable. This is a whole step above that. I've been partnered with INTOTHEAM for over 2 years now. They've been an excellent partner. They make great products, so it makes it easy to promote them on the channel. These athletic shirts, oh my God, it's like putting silk on your body. So if you go to INTOTHEAM.com and you use code Gjeebs, that will save you an additional 10%, adding on to whatever sale they have going on. So if they have 30% off, you now get 40% off. These shirts are extremely comfortable. You're gonna buy shirts to work out or run in. Give these guys a try. I'm telling you, like, the material's incredible. They have 30-day money-back guarantees. They're very good to work with. I highly recommend these. INTOTHEAM, thank you for sponsoring the channel. On the interior of the Prius, you have this 7-inch multi-information display along with a 12.3-inch digital display with Apple CarPlay. Moving down below here, you'll notice you have heated seats and cooled seats. The seats in this are very comfortable and very plush. Additionally, you have USB-C for charging, and then you have USB for information. If you want to have it wired and go to Apple CarPlay, you can do that. So that's very nice. And in terms of where to wirelessly charge your phone, it actually sits in here vertically. It says hashtag wireless charger as it sits in here. Now, more on to this center display. I just came from driving the Lexus RX 500H. This is almost identical. Now, Lexus and Toyota being in the same family, this shifter is identical, the park, all of this is almost the same. It does have the addition of drive mode here. The Prius, as we now know, has sport mode. You can go into EV mode. EV mode only lasts until about 20 miles an hour, and then you feel the gas-powered engine kick in. I wish you could permanently put it in EV mode for city use and run the battery down to a certain point where then the gas would kick back in. That's one of my annoyances with hybrids is, yeah, they say, oh, it has full electric range, but the chance of you actually only being on electric range for any reasonable amount of time is usually eliminated by needing to go more than 20 miles per hour. So this is all very functional. The one weird thing here is the view of seeing that 7-inch multifunctional display. It's hard to see. It's in a weird place. It needs to be either lower or higher, but it is what it is. It does have a JBL audio system. It looks like a kid just took Elmer's glue and attached these to the front of the car. The worst thing about the Prius to me is I'm surprised at how cheap it feels on the interior. Now, the steering wheel is nice, the seats are nice, but outside of that, it's very plasticky and echoey. This specific one is a $37,000 car, which brings you into the range of the Model 3. The JBL system is 8 speakers, including an amplifier. There's direct light illumination and a fixed glass panoramic roof. It does have a heated steering wheel and 6 USB-C ports, as well as heated rear seats, automatic braking, and front and rear parking assist. The other thing to notice and talk about is the rear legroom. So I'm 6 feet tall, and I have this in a comfortable position to be sitting in the front. Now, if we move to the back, there's 2 things to note. First off, if the car fully loses power, this mechanism will not work to release the door. So they have a fail-safe here, this little button. If you press that down and then pull, it will release the door. Nice to have that option as well. It's well thought out. Now, moving into the back of the car, it does have heated seats. There are 2 USB-C ports back here for power, and you actually have plenty of room, along with a leather pocket here to store whatever you'd like. So there is nice legroom, and there's fairly good headroom. Again, Andrew's 6'3". He'd probably have trouble with headroom in the back, but for most people, this is going to be plenty of room. You have 2 lights in the back, and then you also have this sunshade here, which you can easily open and close. I will say though, like, yes, it's nice to have this, but I don't know really what you're going to be able to see out of it. I think they're better off just having the normal sunroof in the front as opposed to having this in the rear as well, but it's there and that's how it is. So if you close that up, yes, nice legroom in the back. The rear seats are 60-40 split for folding, so you do have plenty of room there. And you have the center armrest, which folds out, and you have 2 cup holders as well as room for a water bottle down in this area. So there is enough space. The other thing I will note, and I've complained about this in lots of other cars, is the footroom under the seat here. You can see I actually have room to stick my feet down there. In a lot of cars, there's not room. It's very tight down there. In SUVs, you have more room because the seats are lifted to give you a better visibility out of the car. So it is nice that you do have footroom down there, which is better than the Model 3. Now on to the trunk. It is automatic. And then you also have a button right here to automatically close it. And then this button automatically closes it and locks the entire car. You have this nice shade right here to give you some extra protection. If you live in San Francisco, it doesn't matter. They'll smash your rear windows in anyways. Then you have this carpet here. It says Prius, very nice, very tightly knit. Pop that up, and this little handle here lets you into this area. So there is some sub-compartment storage down here, but weird shapes. Like you'd have to put like a shoe here and a shoe here and a flashlight there. There's not much room back here to really use it as a functional space, but there is some space to store minor things that you wouldn't want floating about your cabin. So that's a way to not be a pig and kind of keep your car organized. The other useful thing about the Tesla is having this nice frunk space. In addition to this frunk space, you have a similarly shaped thing in the sub-trunk. In the sub-trunk of the Model 3, not only do you have a nice sized trunk, you can store things down here. So we got paper towels, we have a compressor unless we get a flat, we have the sunshade cover unless you need that. So it's actually a significant amount of room where on long trips, you can optimize the storage that's in the cabin of your car, making that very clean and putting everything else in a storage area, whether that's in the frunk, the trunk, or the sub-trunk. This is where Tesla does a better job than anyone. It's also interesting how Prius is written even into the heated coils on the rear windshield to defog it or melt snow off. And then moving down to this black, piano black trim, you have Prius embossed into the wheel arch here. Just kind of a unique feature. I'm not sure why they decided to plant it everywhere, but I also kind of like it. I like when they plant things in cars. It also says Hybrid Reborn. It says it there, and it says it on the engine bay as well. So just some unique Easter eggs that the Prius has. But now that we've driven the Prius, we've covered a lot of it and covered a lot of its ergonomics. This is the most fuel efficient car that you can currently buy. It's incredible. You can also get it in all-wheel drive if you live in a snowy area. You can also get it as a plug-in hybrid. This is not the plug-in hybrid. Personally, I don't like a plug-in hybrid because that's the worst of both worlds. You're now having to plug your gas car in. I just like when you don't have to touch it and you can just drive it around and the battery will recharge itself with the kinetic energy from the wheels. So now that we've covered this, let's take a ride in the Model 3 to see how that compares to driving the Prius, because I was slightly disappointed with Just the overall feel of the Prius. I thought it would feel not more expensive, but just like tight, like Toyotas mainly are. This felt like kind of light and tinny. So let's jump in the Model 3. So some information that you're gonna wanna know about this trip. The distance we've gone is 169 miles. We've used 51 kilowatt hours of energy, and the efficiency of the car is 72%, which is 300 watt hours per mile. So with the Prius, I'm able to just drive like I could probably get close to 600 miles if I was driving very, very efficiently, but we were just going today. I'm gonna easily be able to make this 250 mile round trip with the Prius and still have like a half tank of fuel left. So again, if we were driving this a little more efficiently, we'd be fine. But again, the Tesla's charging network is so dense, there were multiple chargers that we would have options of going to on the specific trip that we did. So this is gonna be about, what is it, a 20-minute charge session here?
About 20 minutes, yeah.
About a 20-minute charge session. There's a car that's about to plug in beside us. You can see we're holding steady at 123 kilowatts. This is a 150 kilowatt charger. So once they plug in, that should actually drop fairly significantly, which can add to your charging time. But that's like the reality of the situation here. So now we'll hop in, take this for a drive, and see how it is in comparison. I'm now in the Model 3 standard range, and immediately the driving of this, the acceleration, the immediate acceleration that this has is so nice to drive. I know that a lot of people say, oh, he owns a Tesla, so he's automatically biased. Look, I have nothing to gain from saying Tesla's better or the Prius is better. I don't care. I'm just trying to bring you the most objective review of both of these cars that I know a lot of people are cross-shopping because you want to save money on gas and have a car that's efficient. This car, and this is rare for me to say this, that the Tesla build quality is like noticeably better. Now, there are things to get used to. Like my friend Colby rented a Tesla. He didn't know how to change the mirrors for the first 5 hours of driving the car and drove like this. Like he's 6'2" or 6'1", and he had to drive like this to adjust because he couldn't see. He didn't know that it was in the software in one of the menus. So there are things like that that up front are intimidating, but over time you get used to it. But the ride quality, the suspension, and the cabin, everything feels a lot better in here. What I will say is talking in here, there's an echo because there's so much glass. So you do feel that echo, and I forgot about that, how that felt. But just the acceleration in this thing, being able to just get on it and immediately be on the power, whereas the Prius makes that CVT, that sick cat at 3 a.m. sound. Nobody wants that. This is the slowest one, you know, to 60, the slowest accelerating Tesla. It's just, it's really a pleasure to drive and feel that power. And single pedal driving is something that when you initially drive an electric car or a Tesla, you're like, oh, that's weird. When I let off, it doesn't glide. It immediately puts kinetic energy back into the battery. But it's something you become to appreciate. You don't use your brakes at all. And I don't know. It's like it's rare when I come into something, and especially a Toyota, it just feels light and tinny and cheap, and it's not a cheap car. That feels like a Nissan Versa. You know, it's it's a $15,000 or $16,000 or $17,000 car. You're like, okay, I can accept this stuff. But when you're closing in on $40,000 after taxes, I'm a little let down. You know, yes, the car is extremely efficient. Yes, you don't have to deal with the nuisance of charging, because if you live in an apartment and you don't have a charger where you're able to just plug in every night and you have to go to public charging, owning an electric vehicle is a pain. It's annoying. Like, I don't recommend that to anyone. If you have a charger at home and you're just driving around town and you aren't going on road trips, or you have a gas car to use for road trips, there is nothing better, in my opinion, than a Model 3 or a Model Y for around town, because there's no maintenance on it. You plug it in at home and you charge, you go to work, you plug in, and every night you wake up to 80 or 90%, whatever your set charging rate is. And that's all you need, and it's simple. And the Prius would be much better for road trips because you're able to cover huge amounts of distance running at 50 miles per gallon. On this road trip, I like to where we were for that charging stop, I was at like 42 miles per gallon. So about 72% efficiency in that, and about 69% efficiency in the Model 3. So that's what you're looking at for round trip. And I'm surprised at how this feels. This feels like a much more planted, sporty, solid car compared to the Prius, I think, to me, as an enthusiast, it's not for me. And I like efficient cars, but just the way the accelerator feels and just the lack of feel in the steering, this Model 3 is significantly better. Now, if you want to see a review of the Tesla Model 3 compared to the Hyundai Ioniq 6, click this video right here. I think you'll really enjoy it. It's a nice comparison of two cars that were very similar.